of multi-dimensional poverty that challenges our people, and the completion of this estate provides solution for the beneficiaries.
President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurates Zuba Housing Estate.
In pursuing our political objectives, we must never lose sight of the fundamental truth that in war, everybody loses. In peace, everybody can win.
House of Representatives engages concerned ministries and agencies on evacuation of Nigerians from Sudan.
Nigeria police confirms arrest of suspended Adamawa resident electoral commissioner.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss better representation and value addition for newly elected lawmakers.
The legislature is an important arm of government that can be described as the assembly of the representatives of the people. With the conclusion of the supplementary elections into the National Assembly across the country, the 10th National Assembly can be said to be fully composed.
Composed in the meantime, but not yet inaugurated. Now, in the run-up to the inauguration of the new legislature, especially at the federal level, expectations are high for the consolidation of national unity and good governance. Now, the 10th House will witness a plethora of new members amid some returnees. Now, this is consequent upon the disruptions caused in the political space by the entrance, of course, Labour Party, NNPP, and others.
Yes, and with the completion of the elections, the ruling APC has emerged as the majority party in the Senate with 59 members elect. In the lower legislative chamber, well, some say it's not lower, APC won 162 seats, followed by PDP, which won 102 seats.
Well, carry on, the 10th National Assembly will be inaugurated sometime in June, and that will be after the issuance of a presidential proclamation. The question is, with a large number of new members elect coming into the political space, particularly the legislature for the first time, how will they handle leadership roles and issues surrounding governance?
Good question there, Kingsley. And after the inauguration in June, legislative duties will begin proper, and believe me, there is a lot that needs to be done. In fact, they should hit the ground running because the task ahead is not an easy one. It's not a tea party.
Absolutely, and this is why the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, is organizing a strategic leadership retreat for newly elected public office holders across all political parties in the country. And the aim, of course, is to build their capacity and strengthen their leadership capabilities for the purpose of good governance.
And the political parties leadership and policy development center of the institute is focusing on the 2023 elections and the future of democracy in Nigeria. Good public governance, according to the institute, is key and imperative for economic advancement and political stability in today's multivariant society.
Indeed, Kyria, now Nigeria needs to re-strategize by retooling personnel in both government and business with the understanding and application of modern policy formulation and strategic management skills in problem solving as well as the pursuit of development goals.
While Nigerians look forward to the 10th Assembly for better representation, good governance, a system that works, that will provide dividends of democracy, how effective are these retreats for public office holders? What are those leadership qualities required, especially in character of a public office holder? Should these kinds of retreats take place only after one is elected into office? This forms our conversation today with our panel of guests on Good Morning Nigeria for this edition. Well, as we discuss better representation and value addition for newly elected public office holders, I am Kyria Numayo welcoming you to this edition of the program. Well, of course, this Wednesday is midweek, and we're glad to be here again.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian to also welcome you to the program. As always, we're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, where we're broadcasting from our headquarters studios in Abuja. In the course of the program, we'll have our complimentary segments, newspaper review, business and sports. For the highlights of the morning news, we join our colleague Lydia Odije Uchi. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning, Kingsley and Kirian. Here is the morning news. 748 more units have been added to Nigeria's national housing stock in furtherance of sustained efforts at reducing housing deficit in the country. This followed the inauguration of Zuba Housing Estate and the FCT constructed by the Federal Housing Authority. President Muhammadu Buhari, who performed the ceremony, said the promise of change by his administration has been fulfilled for the beneficiaries.
Housing supply is one of the indices of multi-dimensional poverty that challenges our people, and the completion of this estate provides solution for the beneficiaries. The new homeowners who benefit from this estate have taken a step up on the ladder of prosperity and away from poverty.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has written to Senate seeking the consideration of the amended 2022 Finance Bill for the 2023 fiscal year. The president also sought Senate's confirmation for the reappointment of Abike Dabiri Erewa as Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM.
The amended Finance Bill 2022 presented to the National Assembly today seeks to support the ongoing implementation of the 2023 federal budget by proposing key reforms to specific taxation, customs, excise, fiscal and other relevant laws.
House of Representatives has passed a resolution to engage officials of Foreign Affairs Ministry, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, over challenges of ongoing evacuation of Nigerians caught up in the current war in Sudan.
We must never lose sight of the fundamental truth that in war, everybody loses. In peace, everybody can win. All our personal, partisan, and sectional interests must always succumb to the overarching and overriding interests of ensuring the unity and stability of Nigeria.
Meanwhile, fighting in Sudan rages for weeks, turning the country into a land of fear and hopeless instability with its attendant humanitarian crisis. Citizens have had to flee the country on foot and sometimes on animals to safety in neighboring countries like Chad. Back home, Nigeria Police Force has confirmed the arrest of Hudu Yunusa Ari, the suspended Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner who announced the candidate of the All Progressives Congress winner of the governorship election. A statement by the force indicates that Barrister Ari was arrested by the police election planning, monitoring and evaluation team in Abuja on Tuesday, 2nd May 2023, and he is currently in police custody being grilled to ascertain the motives behind his alleged improper actions during the supplementary elections in Adamawa State. In addition, other officials and individuals culpable in the saga are also being interrogated by the team. Against the frequent but unsubstantiated accusations of partiality judgments delivered in Nigerian courts of law, the National Judicial Institute, NJI, is training judges of lower courts on the fundamentals of impartial, knowledge-based adjudication. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, used the occasion to reiterate National Judicial Council's zero tolerance to corruption in the judiciary.
You all must not be boastful and pompous on account of your post or in the execution of your judgment. In this regard, I enjoin participants at this refresher course to abstain from what could tarnish your good image or tamper with your reputation.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kirian and Kingsley. After this break, please don't go away. Good morning.
It's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news, and we join our correspondent, Alika Okpanachi Arua.
Data released by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission revealed that Nigeria has been able to ramp up its crude oil output from an average of about 60% to 75% between second quarter of 2022 and first quarter of 2023 in the last 2 months. The renewed zeal by the federal government to tackle oil theft and asset vandalism in the Niger Delta has helped the country to drill 150 million barrels of the commodity in the first quarter of 2023, raising the average to 75%. Meanwhile, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has commenced steps to resuscitate rubber production in Nigeria in its bid to increase national wealth creation and boost supply of raw materials for local industries. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Dr. Ernest Umakihe, during a meeting with delegation from International Rubber Study Group in Abuja, said the federal government is committed towards diversifying the nation's economy with increased focus on arable and cash crops for economic growth and development in the country. Let's take a look at Tuesday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Okpanachi Arua.
Many thanks, Alika, for the package. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and next on schedule is a review of today's newspapers.
Our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okoli-Ogbaja, is right here with us in the studios for today's session of the review. Chukwudi, good morning and welcome.
I am happily here. Thank you so much. Kirian,
Yeah,
how are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm sure you're good too, because
you look good enough to display.
No. Don't go there. Just don't go there. Okay, let's begin with the Nation newspaper. Above the name flag, 57.4 million BVNs linked to bank accounts, 7,500 on the watch list. That's on page 11. Now, NCA launches firm to deliver healthcare expansion plan. Zenith Bank stakeholders get 100.47 naira dividend. All right, so all that on page 11. Senate probes passports renewal insurance delay. That's on page 4. Adamawa, that's a this story. Police quiz detain REC INEC commissioners. Yunusa Ari gives self-up at first headquarters, says, I have no regrets. Now, first batch of Nigerians expected from Sudan today. 1,350 arrive in Port Sudan. 5,500 taken out of Khartoum. House leadership meets ministries and agencies. We get all that on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. Now, I see the questions for REC, according to this paper: likely breach of peace, impersonation of the RO, violation of neutrality oath, disobedience to lawful order. And of course, at the bottom of the Nation, JAMB releases UTME results. That's on page 6. Kaduna Police parade 350 urban gangsters. It's on page 7 as well. Let's bring in Priestley now.
Well, let me start from a story that is inside the paper. This is from Leadership. It's not on the front page of the paper. I think that is significant because we've always talked about local governments and how they've been sidelined and how they, of course, have not made their mark in terms of good governance. Now, the story says anger in Edo as 18 LGAs generate 3 million naira monthly IGR. There are 18 local government areas in Edo State, and all 18 local government areas in 1 month generated 3 million naira. One of the local governments generated 1 million naira, that is Ego, and then all the other 17 generated 2 million naira.
Against look carefully, it must be billion.
No, it's million. Million.
Are you kidding?
Million. Thousand. I mean, in simple arithmetic, you have units, tens, hundreds, thousands, million, and billion, and this is 2 million. That's 6 zeros. 6 zeros. 2 million.
Well, that,
and this is the deputy. No, there's not. The deputy governor who addressed the heads of local government administration was furious. The story has been out and is right there on page 17 of the Leadership newspaper. I take it again. 18 local government areas in Edo generated 3 million naira. One of the local governments, Ego, generated 1 million naira. The other 17, 2 million naira, making a total of 3 million naira for 1 month. All right, so let's take other stories. We'll come back to that presently. The front page of the Leadership newspaper. President Muhammadu Buhari reappoints Abike Dabiri-Arewa as NITCOM chair. That's, of course, that's a letter gone to the Senate for the reappointment. Adamawa wreck in police custody, says I didn't collect bribe. Now, we also have below that, Adamawa wreck says he has no regrets declaring Binani governor. Agora policy tasks president-elect on prudence and fiscal responsibility. Ahead of inauguration, rents and property values surge in Abuja. Estate developers, landlords, agents make bricks business. New lawmakers, political appointees scramble for accommodation. Cost of building materials and inflation blamed. Editors seek press freedom and safety for journalists. Ekweremadu, reps and ECOWAS write UK government plead for clemency. Wike declares public holiday as Tinubu visits Rivers. And also from the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have the following headlines. Above the nameplate, external debt. Federal government deducts 78 billion naira from state allocations. Controversial Adamawa wreck detained, insists Binani won poll. Deadly noodles. NAFDAC takes probe to factories and markets. Tinubu's victory. That's the kicker for the lead headline. Legal battle begins Monday as tribunal hears petitions. APC expresses readiness, says it is aware of hearing dates. PDP Atiku will emerge victorious, legal team tells Nigerians. Evacuated Nigerians stranded at Egypt border, Gbajabiamila orders probe. 792 Nigerians abducted in first quarter, that's according to a report. And then I have delivered on change agenda, says Buhari. Chukudi.
We'll come back to the 3 million naira IGR. We just have to. But in the meantime, let's quickly say that the controversial Adamawa Resident Electoral Commissioner, that's Hudu Yunusari, is insisting that Binani won the governorship election in Adamawa. He was speaking from detention. I think the case he is making is secondary to a primary issue. And the primary issue is, was it in his lawful position to declare results? Is it that he really doesn't think he violated a section of the Electoral Act? And I say, well, he is free to sing impunity as investigation continues into his strange and ostensibly unlawful act. And I'm using ostensibly so that we don't give the impression that a media trial is on. Otherwise, the law is clear. Much more to say, let the matter be investigated. If he is found culpable, he should face the music. Because as we keep repeating here, lack of punitive measures makes a misdemeanor and outright civil and criminal matters, continue as regular occurrences. We have to put a stop to that. Quickly, Ekweremadu, House of Representatives writes UK authorities for clemency a motion of urgent public importance was raised yesterday, which the representatives acted on without delay. We hope that justice, will be tempered with mercy. The senator, if you ask me, had shown good deportment and comportment throughout the case. In fact, he became a paragon of good behavior in litigation, so to speak. I think that should be taken cognizance of as sentencing, is about to happen.
Yeah, he's a lawyer, so I'm not surprised the way he conducted himself, during the trial, knowing the implication of any form of misdemeanor while the trial is taking place. But I read one item, concerning that, we're not no longer waiting trial and has not been convicted. It's just for them to state how long the sentencing is going to take. And that is part of the appeal, by the House of Representatives to say, look, that the original intention for the action taken by the family should be considered as well. The intention is to save someone. If it was for other criminal activities, that would have been different. That the original intention is to save life, and that should also be considered. Why the judges will be sentencing him. This is part of the appeal by the House of Representatives.
Well, we raised and discussed the issue a couple of weeks ago when former President Olusegun Obasanjo wrote to the court with respect to the sentencing that is due shortly. This was after the court had found Ekweremadu and his wife guilty under the Modern Slavery Act of the United Kingdom. Former President Obasanjo weighed in and, of course, like other locutors, indicating that I'm pleading that the court should temper justice with mercy. The House of Reps has also followed in similar vein, along, of course, with ECOWAS Parliament. And we do hope that the courts will pay heed to these calls for leniency in the sentencing, because the thing to do is to go back all the steps that the Ekweremadus took in the application to the High Commission for a visa. There was no attempt to deceive or mislead the consular officers. They said this was the reason why we were doing this.
Yes,
it was plain. It wasn't out of naivety. It was just just unaware of what the implications would be.
I thought that was bad for him. I was thinking that document, because when it was circulated on social media, I said, look, yes, I thought this man was doing a clandestine thing, but we saw it that he applied.
No trickery at all. Straightforward.
It's not that they didn't follow the procedure. That's just the point. For me, if they have studied the procedure for doing such a thing in UK, that would have taken care of all this.
Kingsley made a point that the law is the law, particularly in these Western climes. Fine, so the law has taken its course. But at that level of consideration, no human being is inferior to another. But at that level of consideration, we're talking about a Nigerian senator. Gentlemen, at a point in diplomacy, a political decision does indeed get taken.
Yes.
I hope that happens in the
we
case.
We just hope that that comes on. The other issue is the Adamawa Resident Electoral Commissioner, who is now in police custody. I'm just wondering, can't the gentleman just learn to keep quiet? Just keep quiet. First, what you did, you are seeking to justify it when, as Chukwudi, you rightly observed, it wasn't your duty to declare a winner, to make a return on an election. And you are a lawyer, and you have been declared wanted. Now the police have caught you, and there's an investigation that is going on. Whatever you need to, you are the one engaging yourself in media trial by protesting your innocence and seeking to justify your clearly illegal and unconstitutional act. Just keep quiet.
Yeah, Kingsley, I have no claims to clinical psychology. I don't have that knowledge. But sometimes in this country, certain things happen that make me feel that people should be subjected to psychiatric tests before they get some positions in this country. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
You see, we have this impression that it's only when he goes naked and raving mad, picking things at the market, that men are considered to be mad. But between being cranky and being raving mad, there is derangement. There is being crazy. There is, when you start talking to yourself, it's abnormality. So it's a whole range before you hit not wearing clothes at all.
You know, Nigerians are just beginning to understand what mental health is all about, you know.
Oh, yes.
So you don't have to run mad on the streets, you know, before you're considered as somebody who is mentally ill. As a matter of fact, I look at it from a different perspective, you know, because see, in this country, you know, what people now believe to be new normal, like in elections in the country, rigging is a strategy for politicians. Let me tell you this: rigging has, you know, it has permeated the fabric of the political space. There are no two ways about it. It is just something that is considered number one during elections by parties.
I agree with you.
If you go, you listen to them. They are their goals. They're human beings. You mingle with them. You discuss with them. And what this man did, because he's caught now, he's being celebrated, so to speak. But that is what they do year after year, every election year. And this man felt, look, okay, fine, going by the rules, their own rules, those abnormality, he has arrived to a conclusion on what he did. And you say he usurped somebody's responsibility. Who told you he didn't know, and as a lawyer, that he was not supposed to announce results? But he went ahead to do it.
There is nothing wrong with the hunter shooting without missing. The swallow will fly without perching, so that the hunter does not have time to take aim, you know.
Yeah.
So our laws should also keep preempting, being proactive, to upstage the machinations of unscrupulous politicians. We have not even seen what I think is going to be the champion of it all, the beavers. We have not seen it in court. Let's get there. I think we are upping the game on a cyclical basis, 4 years and all that, you know, the Electoral Act. We'll get there.
I think that
we'll get there.
What is equally important is the caliber and quality of persons who are appointed as resident electoral commissioners. Look, the blame we heap on INEC. Some of these issues that cause the blame occur at the state level. And the national headquarters has little control over these things. And yet, when the nominees for appointment as recs get to the Senate, it appears, I say this with the greatest respect to the distinguished senators, it appears that the verification and the hearings are just almost perfunctory. It's like, let's do it, clear, everybody goes. And then you are seeing the behavior of some of these persons. And one of the recs were found in a hotel when the election was going on, 2023 elections. I don't know what he was doing in a hotel. This one is talking and just, I don't know.
That is because we play down integrity. Kingsley, let's talk from our clan. Fairness, factuality, objectivity, and balance have no place in journalism if the editor is a man who has no conscience.
People who practice journalism
integrity
are living in the same society that we are describing. So how do they survive if they do not, cut corners? How do they survive?
Not making a general case for integrity.
I'm not saying that the journalists are living in the same society. And if you operate in a rotten society, by the way, you have to bend the law to survive. If you don't do that, I remember one of my GMs there in Enugu, but he's so rest in peace, Engineer Uzamere. He once said, look, don't break the law. Bend the law, achieve an objective. You may obey the law without achieving an objective and what have you. It may not be the best form of of behavior. Okay. But if you live in a rotten society, there's nothing you can do. It's a system issue. And it does not mean you should support it.
You don't present rotten society argument in a court. Remember that.
That's what
not even a rotten society argument on public television. One of our goals in terms of agenda is to fix our society.
Exactly. And
we have to fix
if
our
we're
society.
not raising those issues that make people look at us as those who are not serious, then people will not know that we are even making mistakes. That's why we have new normals in Nigeria. When someone makes a mistake, it's a new normal. We take it like that. But if one is picked up and punished, as you said, Chukwudi, that there are no punitive measures, then those things will continue.
That's because we're losing culture.
Consequences.
We're losing culture.
Consequences for bad behavior. That's simply it. Well, let me throw this in a very serious matter, but also I'm sure we remember in those days when you used to have afternoon publications, the Evening Times, Evening Times and Guardian Express. If you recall, some weeks ago there was a BRT driver in Lagos who was conveying staff of the Lagos State Service. And then decided to get onto the rail track when the train was oncoming. In that incident, there was, of course, the train crashed into the bus and 6 persons died. That bus driver has now been arraigned for a Lagos High Court on 16 counts of involuntary manslaughter and causing grievous harm. The driver, of course, has been remanded in custody while the trial is ongoing. We'll get into the details. The name of the driver is Oluwaseun Oshibanjo. There's no relationship with the vice president, but in those days when you used to have afternoon papers, the headline probably would have been Oshibanjo remanded in custody.
Archibald replaces Archibald.
I said, Oshibanjo remanded in custody. You will see the story.
No. Editing. Now, let me go back to what the person Kingsley read. Just very briefly, because we're running out of time. On the issue of a local government, raising 3 million naira in about 17 council areas. See, local governments in Nigeria are dysfunctional. There are no two ways about it. They are dysfunctional. And as a matter of fact, there's no creativity in governance anymore. A council area chairman should be able to know what exists in his domain and be able to be creative enough to...
But even the markets alone will give much more than...
No, the point is that what they are declaring may not necessarily be what they got.
That's the point.
That's the main point here. But if you think that perhaps they didn't raise much more money, that is not true. They must have raised much money, but the one they declared is the one that Kingsley just ran out. So that's what happens in council areas. If you go to council areas in Nigeria, many people don't come to work. You only come to work at the end of the month to take salaries. It's still continuing up to this moment. I don't understand that.
Gentlemen, let me throw this in because we are out of time for the newspaper review. It's a subject that probably will come up for discussion on some other occasion. It's here on the front page of the leadership. Wike declares public holiday as Tinubu visits Rivers.
I didn't want to go there.
Well, yeah, it is not the politics of it, of whether declaring a holiday for President-elect Tinubu coming. That's fine. Look, it is the abuse of public holidays.
Loss of man hours.
No, public holidays. People don't, sometimes, we seem now not to even recognize the implication of public holidays. Oh, we say international best practices. In countries, if you declare a public holiday and then people have to go to work on those public holidays, their pay is double on that day.
More than double, really. Yes.
If your hourly pay, for instance, let me give an example. Your hourly pay is, say, $10 an hour. And you're supposed to do $8, you're supposed to do 8 hours, which is $80. You go to work on a public holiday, your pay will be $160. A higher percentage. And then if you say close shops, close all of this one. So who pays the cost of this? When President-elect Tinubu was governor of Lagos, he wasn't declaring public holidays recklessly because it's the commercial nerve center of the country. So, of course, the president-elect will be very happy to go there, but why declare public holiday and then you lose man hours, nobody picks up the economic consequences of this kind of declaration. And it happens from time to time. Somebody don't wake up, say nobody, don't go to work. Don't go to work.
Yes, unnecessary showmanship, that does the right word. I am not sure that it's going to hold because you can't tell traders not to go to market. Close down markets is practically very difficult to do, especially in Rivers State. All right, now that's how we conclude the newspaper review for today. It's been very exciting. We hope to see you back again tomorrow when we come with this segment. Chukwudi, we thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We'll see you again tomorrow. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. That's the place to be on a day like this. We'll see you again after the break. Now, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria for today. Now, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, is organizing a strategic leadership retreat for newly elected public office holders across all political parties in Nigeria for better representation and value addition. That's our conversation this morning. But before we do that, let's get this background report by our correspondent, Joseph Otsen.
Former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan had described good governance as the single most important factor in eradicating poverty and promoting development. It involves measuring how public institutions conduct public affairs and manage public resources and guarantee the realization of human rights in a manner free of abuse and corruption and with due regard for the rule of law. To reap this concept of good governance in a democratic setting, the masses are opportuned to elect from sample of candidates vying different positions of governance, and those able to drive successfully through the electoral process emerge as the people's representatives. For every community, expectations from their representatives differ at a given time and circumstances. For some, it will be infrastructural development, others, human capital development, access to healthcare, security, and in most cases, a combination of 1, 2, or 3, and even more. Success adds value to lives of citizens and set the pace for future progress. Failure is a drawback. The just concluded 2023 general elections produced yet another set of people, both at the national and state levels, saddled with responsibility of delivering democratic dividends. Yesterday, a national retreat for the elected public officers and the future of democracy in Nigeria started in Abuja. Organized by the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, the workshop is to equip them, especially the new ones, with what it takes to woo needed development to their respective communities.
E-governance is the way to go. E-governance must drive local government. We must have an ICT-driven local government system. It is 21st century compliant. It is the way of the future. And any local government, any government, I must say, that is not driven by e-governance will only be left behind.
After listening carefully to them, we are going to go back to our states and we will look at how the system is being run, what needs to be done to correct what. We will do everything possible.
But this will not be the first time such will be held, and many may be wondering if the exercise had impact in the past, given the poor representation many communities have decried. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will give perspectives on equipping elected public officers and the impact on good governance.
Thank you very much, Joseph Otsen, for that background. We have here in the studios to discuss issues arising from the retreat, Professor Ayo Omotayo, who is the Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS. Professor Omotayo, we're glad to have you in the studios this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. We also have joining us via Zoom, Professor Kabir Mato. Professor Kabir Mato is a political scientist. He's with us regular on Good Morning Nigeria and today via Zoom. Prof, good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Rizal. Good morning, Kingsley.
Okay. Well, of course, we are still expecting a guest to join us this morning. And it's one of those who have just been elected. We're hoping that he will be here this morning. That's the Emetu Ikechukwu, Deputy Governor-elect of Abia State. We hope to have him here this morning. Well, gentlemen who are already here with us, it's a pleasure to have you. Kabir Mato, and of course, the NIPS DG. All right, sir. NIPS, of course, if I can cast my mind back on when I started, following NIPS and your activities, you have been able to organize retreats, such retreats in the past, perhaps seminars or workshops or periodic trainings that people get from NIPS. And there's no doubt the fact that NIPS has over the years rolled out strategies for national development, not just for politics. All right. But what Nigerians may not really know is how those policies and strategies have gone down, in terms of, development. Now, but our focus is on this retreat that you just organized. What is the import of this? I mean, what do you intend to achieve, knowing full well that, of course, we'll have new entrants at the National Assembly?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. When I became the DG of NIPSE about 14 months ago, one of the problems I found is that the level of uptake of outcomes of researches, outcomes of policies, and outcomes of all of the engagements that we've had in the past, the level of uptake was very low. One of the charges I got from the Vice President who supervises NIPSE was that we should work on uptake of policies, because it didn't make sense for policies or outcomes of researches just to be at NIPSE gathering dust. Every year we submit what we call the PALI report, which is always the outcome of all the engagements that the SEC participants have had for the year. We submit the outcome to Mr. President, and it's always what we call a theme report, because every year Mr. President chooses any problem or any challenge he thinks is priority area for the SEC participants to research into and then submit a report. So we found that, okay, they do very fantastic work. And if you look through our library, you see that there is no challenge that Nigeria has had in the past that NIPSE does not have a solution to. Then you want to wonder, why is it that we are not using some of the policies that have been brought up as a result of those engagements? So one of the things we now decide to do is that we have to be very aggressive, that it's not going to be enough for NIPSE to just come up with policies and strategies to implement them. We should also ensure that these policies and strategies get to where they are supposed to get to for eventual uptake and implementation. So this year will be the first year that NIPSE will actually be having a retreat for newly elected leaders. I think there have been efforts in the past, and sometimes challenges of where we are in JAWS makes it difficult for people to come over to do things like this, and we decided that, okay, this time around, let's take the battle to where we can find those people. And of course, they reside there in Abuja. All the 514 newly elected officials of government live in Abuja. So let's take the battle to them, and that is why we decided to organize this retreat. We have it in 3 categories for governors and their deputies, senators, then House of Representative members. Yesterday was for governors and their deputies. Today will be for Senate, newly elected distinguished members of the Senate, and then the last 2 days, because of the number, will be for members of the House of Representatives. So our own idea is that before they get into governance, they need to understand exactly what is happening in Nigeria, what is our true state. So there is a difference between political manifestos and policies. Most of the times we see that newly elected officers, in an effort to keep their political promises, embark on projects that eventually become white elephant or that may not work, because they see that, manifestos are not supposed to be policies. If you have a manifesto, it has to be subjected to scientific inquiry, scientific investigations to see if that particular item on your manifesto list can become a policy that can be used. So that is one of the reasons why we said, okay, we know you have manifesto, but let us see how we can turn manifestos into policies. And of course, when you come to NIPSE, I tell people that most of the policies people think they have, they will chew up those policies, because when they subject them to real scientific inquiry, it's not about just saying, oh, this thing can work. You have to be sure how can it work? Work for who? Where and when? All of those questions have to be answered. All the areas where they cross each other must be totally looked into before policies are pronounced. So these are the kind of things we feel that, okay, some policies have been subjected to serious, and we know that they can work. So let these new elected officials be made aware of some of these policies. We also wanted them to see, what exactly are policies, different from just the mundane thing, because governance is serious business. We have 200 million Nigerians looking up to something good for themselves. We have our children, and I'm so very passionate about these young ones living Nigeria under this Japa syndrome. And I personally, as an elderly person in the society, I feel embarrassed that it appears we cannot find solutions to the problems of Nigeria. And that is why NIPS is saying that, okay, we will do our best, because our motto says towards a better society. If you are going to have that better society, it has to be a better society for everyone, not only for our children, even for our elderly ones, for the working class. Okay. And then we say, okay, how do we get it? We are not in government. We can only advise. And we say, okay, before they go too far, let us bring them in and say, these are the things that we think is on ground. You know, most of the time when governments come, they start to look for policies, they get consultants to look for. I said some things are already, there's some soup that already documents, some soups are cooked.
All right.
We should just start eating them.
Yeah, DG, thank you for your opening comments. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's go over to Professor Kabir Mato. Professor Kabir Mato, listening to the Director General of NIPS, what's your take? This is the right step in the right direction, or just one of those things again?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's the right step in the right direction, because especially when you place the nature of return in the National Assembly, where the rate of attrition is very high. After every round of election, it is expected, even if the rate of return is manageable, you expected to give a refresher on those who are returning and those who are being elected to either the Senate or House of Representatives chambers at a very good time. So I think what National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies is doing this time around is a very positive development. And maybe this has to do with the fact that, if you recall recently during the electioneering campaign, when every presidential candidate was jetting out to London, to Chatham House to speak to the world about his manifesto and so on and so forth, there were a lot of condemnations on the part of Nigerians, and in fact Nigeria was belittled by a lot of international community for choosing Chatham House instead of homegrown national institutes such as the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, and so on and so forth, to provide the necessary platform that our presidential aspirants will talk to us, talk to the world, talk to Africa, Nigeria being the largest, most populous nation in Africa, and the largest black nation in the world, requires that the focus will be on us, not from Chatham House or anywhere else. So I think what NIPS is doing is a very interesting initiative. This is not the first time. I recall in 2007, the management of the National Assembly also organized this type of training for new elected members of the Senate and House of Representatives from the various zones, the 6 geopolitical zones, divided into different zones. You will be amazed to find that there will be a few senators or even members of House of Representatives that are elected from the Northwest that have very little or no information at all about some sections of this country, be it South, Southeast, and so on and so forth. And the same thing is the case, in the Southeast, Southwest, South. You find that there will be a lot of people who will be coming to Abuja to legislate, to represent, to make laws on behalf of the good people of their constituencies and Nigeria in general, that have absolutely total lack of information and knowledge of what is obtained in the other parts of the country. So this retreat, for newly elected members is a welcome development, and I'd like to congratulate the Director General and NIBS, for taking the bull by the horn. And this is what, some of us Nigerians will always expect from such a premier institution. It always take the lead on matters relating to development or matters relating to policy, strategy, and so on and so forth, so that we can better the lot of this country. So I agree with Prof, and I agree, that NIBS is doing what it's supposed to do. It's better late than never at all, and I expect that such interventions and similar interventions in similar areas will also, take, the front banner as far as activities of the National Institute for Policy and Statistics, as well as other similar national institutes, so that, we'll be able to get our acts together, we'll be able to appreciate, obvious national challenges and chart ways that we can move out of them. I think it is timely. I think it's also good. But what I don't know really is if NIBS has, any with either the management of the National Assembly or the National Institute for Legislative Studies in order to make, this induction a more profitably and rewarding exercise.
Okay. We appreciate your comments, Kabir Matu. Back here again in the studio where we have the DG of NIBS. Sir, could you lead us into the subject matters in question? What are those areas of concern, which you are trying to impart on the legislators? Let's begin with the governors, which of course we have concluded. Let's share with you, some of the items on focus for these governors. Some of them are returning for a second time, so they've gathered experience over the years. Although that we know that in every state in Nigeria, there must be a section of society complaining of the inability of the government to actually touch their lives the way it should. So what went down, during your governors, interaction with the governors with respect to your training?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say one thing. We have big men coming in to listen to us yesterday, and we have always tried to avoid using the word training. These are big men, and when you use the word training, some of them will shy away because they sometimes feel there is nothing new for them to learn. So we call it engagements, because it's not about NIBS throwing things at them, but about NIBS saying what things should probably be, and then we take their own comments on what we are also trying to do. So yesterday we had engagements, and that's what we are going to do today with members of the distinguished members of the Senate. Now, I listened to Professor Meto talking about engaging with the NILD, the Institute of Legislative Studies. We are not legislators. Basically, we are action-oriented persons. We do not teach legislative matters. We basically just want to bring up developmental issues. Now, why the governor, why the legislators? Because when governors from the executive arm or from the president from the area comes up with issues that they want to be legislated upon, it's going to go to the National Assembly, and they need information to enable them know exactly where they should stand when the debates are on. So that is why it is important for them to come. Very many times you have the executive initiating bills that will lead to some developmental end, but legislators too can also do so. So if they are going to do so, they need information to do them. So yesterday, basically, we were trying to bring out issues concerning policies. Like I mentioned to you, we wanted the governors that were there to understand that it's okay to make promises, it's okay to have manifesto list, but a lot of the items on the manifestos may not be implementable, because as governors you have to work with the legislators. A few of your actions you can just do what you need to do, but then how do you ensure that your manifesto items become policies? So those are kind of things we faced yesterday. That is, teach them, well, no, let me use the word teach them, show them that manifestos are not necessarily policies, show them the levels from where they can, how they can translate manifestos to policies, how to engage with stakeholders, because policies are meant to change things or to correct things or to modify the way we live. So we have to let them know that, okay, now if you have this policy, how do I move to make sure it works? We taught them about the implementation strategy as being more important than the policies themselves, because here you have good policies, and of course in Nigeria everybody complains that, oh, good policies badly implemented. Good policies badly implemented. What we have seen at NIPSS over time is that, yes, people rush to try to implement policies, forgetting that the implementation strategy is very, very key. And most policies will fail if they are not subjected to certain implementation guidelines. So we engage with the governors that were there yesterday, telling them areas of immediate need, areas where they can immediately make impact, letting them know their responsibility goes beyond parties. Elections are over. Electioneering is over. It is no longer about my party or your party. It is about the Nigerian people that are expectant. We want good health services for them. How can we get it across? If you can't get good health services to you, why? We need to let people know education is key. All of the areas where we need immediate attention were stated and made known to the governors, and we let them know that the problems are different from place to place. So one of the lectures we had yesterday was on local governance. If anything is going to work, it has to work with the people, and those people are located somewhere in an environment. So we brought back the Pali report of Sec 44 on local governance, and letting Nigerians know, let those who are in governance know that you have to start from the grassroots. If you are going to start from the grassroots, you cannot apply the same technique. The way somebody from Akwa Ibom thinks is different from the way somebody in Lagos thinks. So if you set up one single tier system for local governance in Nigeria, how is it going to work? Given that we are a very multi-diverse society. So these are the things we brought out, trying to emphasize to the governors who are there that they must understand their local environment and see what policies can work. Okay. Because some of these things have to be culturally nuanced. If you are not doing that, we are not going to get to where we need to get to.
Prof, I have two questions. One of them is very brief. Are the participants paying for this?
No, they are not paying for it. I mean, and I must mention this because I don't want to say NIPSS is not well funded like that, but you know what we do, our mandate is to also look for funding, and we're lucky we got the National Institution for Estate Surveyors and Valuers to partner with us. So basically they are funding the most critical part of the engagement. So the governors and those who are having the 514 that we expect don't have to pay anything, they just need to come.
Okay, you know, I asked this question advisedly, and Professor Mato is also listening. Incidentally, you're also a professor. I saw you struggling with the proper descriptive nomenclature for what is happening, whether it's a retreat, it's training, or as we call it, you know, so that they don't, because they are big men, you call it engagement. There is no end to learning until a person dies. The definition of education is that it's a lifelong process. Some of these persons we are talking about who will participate in this retreat, they will go for 3 days to Harvard, they will go for 3 days to Wharton Business School or the London Business School, and they come back with a certificate. When they are in class in those institutions, they sit down, and somebody will be teaching them, and they engage in clusters of similar students or candidates, whether briefly, to discuss. And so why will it be difficult to say And if it's a training program, it's a training program. I think the presumption that, oh, because they are big men and then they may know these things so that they will be offended. If you are offended, then don't read.
And if you know it, why weren't you practicing it?
Why are you not practicing it? I don't know.
It's not about saying that they'll be offended. You know, this is the first time. Somebody has just been elected a governor and you are telling him to come for training. The first thing, one thing I've seen, sir, over time is that Nigerians have a very big ego. I was talking the last time about institutional ego. This agency does not want to work with this one. This one feels it's more important than this one. We all work in silos. I was with the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Uyo last weekend, and I said we can't work in silos. But once an institution feels it's too big, individuals feel they are too big, we have problems. And we are saying that we have to temper our ego. Now, we are doing this for the first time, and we have to be very guided the way we talk. NIPS is not afraid of anybody. If you come to NIPS, of course, everybody who has the yellow badge will tell you that one thing at NIPS is that when you enter the gate, everything about being a big man, you drop at the gate. But because they are not in our direct environment, because there's no way you come to NIPS and you feel like a big man, because you come to learn in a very, very humble setting. But when you're out of NIPS, you're a new governor, probably some of them have not even heard of NIPS. We have to be careful the kind of words we use. The important thing for us is not about saying, oh, NIPS is big, NIPS is this, just to say, please, in whatever form, you need to understand that you are coming to serve Nigerians and you need to know these things. So the word teach, if we wanted it to be impactful. If you say, I want to teach you, and people will run away, I would rather say, let me engage with you to make you stay. The important thing is for you to get to know what we are trying to pass.
That's why in this country we say that, being egoistic, being territorial, has never helped us. It happens even in other sectors of our national life, not just in politics, even in science and technology and others, where professors of your caliber will be doing such things to say, look, this is my environment, and look, I'm not going to share that. That's been our problem. That's why I say that we make things look as if Nigeria is just one different country in the universe, where things don't work. And when you talk about, like what my colleague was saying, it's very apt to say, like, look, you can't learn anymore. Who are you? If you get things right, then why would you need advisors? And what have you? So perhaps you want to bring in Kabir.
Yeah, I want to bring to be honest, because I understand what Prof. said. But we just know every human being who wants to grow must humble himself to learn. So it's the same way. It can be self-study, or you go learn amongst your colleagues and contemporaries and so on and so forth. Call it a retreat, call it engagement. It is useful. We'll come back to a very critical aspect of that presently. Professor Kabir Mato, you have the issue that I threw up with respect to just the appropriate pedagogical label for this kind of interaction. Is it? Must we give the impression that, oh, these are persons who are probably too big to learn, and yet we have problems all around us, and the solutions to some of these problems are archived at NIPS, which is now seeking to bring them out, and we seem somewhat, with the greatest respect, diffident in letting people know that, yeah, these are solution manuals for you, and if you want to learn, you learn. Prof.
Kingsley, I think I totally agree with you. The issue is that there's nobody that's too big to learn. We're all in the process of learning. Professors continue to learn even from their, basic 100-level students about new things in their various areas. So there is nothing wrong with saying we are doing a retreat or we're teaching members of the House of Representatives or Senate of the Federal Republic on the rudiments of rulemaking, representation, and oversight. There's nothing really wrong with that. But you see, we have this mentality as a nation and as a people. Big men. Yes, the Constitution guarantees that you can be a member of the Nigerian Senate once you reach a certain age and you have acquired a first leaving school certificate. The definition of first leaving school certificate has been in contention for a very long time. But even at that level, nothing stops someone from going to secondary school, graduating, and then becoming a senator of the Federal Republic. And we know very, sincerely that someone who leaves secondary school and goes into the Nigerian Senate will obviously find, a lot of dynamics, a lot of intricacies and difficulties that he or she will require to be tutored, will require to be taught, will be required to be reminded about, how things are done or how things ought to be done. So it's about nomenclature, just like Prof is saying. Probably if you say, come, let's teach you, and then everybody feels now I'm a senator-elect, so I'm a big man. I don't need to be taught. Everybody needs to be taught. In the United States of America and other Western liberal democracies, and not even Western liberal democracies, in China, Russia, and so many other places, you will find that their leadership, people at leadership positions have dedicated time to study. They read very widely, they try to understand what's happening, they are being taught. They have situation rooms where, critical national and local issues are tabled and discussed, experts, intellectuals, bureaucrats, technocrats, etc., etc. But I think it has to do more about, the mentality of the Nigerian person, especially when he is elevated to a very, high social class like the House of Representatives, or the Senate. And I think one of the, most important thing that the leadership of the 10th National Assembly must take a very serious look at is the very trivial manner in which senators and members of the House of Representatives treat this capacity building exercise. A lot of them are desperate, are trying to, either through NILS or through any other sponsorship of the National Assembly itself, go to Harvard, go to, Oxford, go to all these Ivy League institutions across the world, or attend international parliamentary, capacity building training. But you find that the members and senators are simply interested in collecting estables and traveling abroad. And when you go, you don't find them at it. So I think what NIPSE is doing, in my humble opinion, should be a pace setter. And there must be a correlation. There must be a relationship between NIPSE and Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies to be able, to bring together not just members of the National Assembly, but also, build the capacities of our, state legislatures and local government councillors, because, the capacities are really, really very low. And once the capacity is low, then you expect, that the outcome of whatever they are going to do in terms of bylaws, in terms of laws, and so on and so forth, will also be very low. So we are really at the crossroads. This is the 10th National Assembly. I want to believe that by now, we, should have put in place an institution of the legislature that is virile, that is self-propelling, that has the capacity, to be able to, do so many things that, will help the legislature. And by the way, the legislature is the newest arm of government as far as the Nigerian democracy is concerned. The executive has always been there, whether during civil or military administration. The judiciary has always been there also. It is just the legislature that re-emerged in 1999, with the ascendancy of the current, political regime that we have in the country. So they require a lot of teaching. They require a lot of capacity building. They require, and whatever you call it. And I think we need to put it to them as objective as it is. It is teaching. A lot of them needs to be taught, right from the level of the presiding officers, to the membership of both the Senate and the House of Representatives, because if you don't read, if you don't learn, a lot of them don't read. Our reading culture, we know, in this country is absolutely poor. So people who ascend leadership position, find it extremely difficult, even impossible to read any literature. So we must build on this. NIPSE and other similar institutions must capitalize on this advantage and make it a periodic exercise. And also, like I said, the leadership of the National Assembly must make it a matter of in-house rule or in-house discipline for their members to ensure that once you are selected or you are asked to go for any particular training or capacity building, you do that not because of the ESTACO, not because of the fact that you are going abroad, etc., etc. And of course, we must be enough to realize that, these institutions that give this training to our senators and members of House of Representatives in UK, in Dubai, and even Rwanda now, in Kigali, are not better than the ones that we have here in Nigeria. And, we must encourage that this continues, and, because it's going to be a continuous learning process. And the more our representatives learn, the more they are reminded, the more they are educated, the likelihood that they make better laws, the likelihood that they make better representation, and therefore the likelihood that Nigeria becomes a better than it is today. So it really does not matter whether it is training, whether it is capacity building, and sometimes they like to garnish these simple terminologies with a lot of this, improvised grammar in order to win the attraction and attention. And I'm so disappointed that it is only the Institute of Quantity Surveyors, that would support the National Institute on this very critical. What is wrong with the budget of the National Institute of Democratic Studies, for instance? I mean, it was National Institute for Legislative Studies before it, was amended to become National Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies. I do know that they have a large chunk of their national appropriation for the capacity building of legislators, not just at the center, but also, at the units of the Nigerian Federation. What are they doing? What are they not collaborating with NIPS so that you can have a rounded, program that is put together by the nation's highest, policy, strategic, and legislative, although the democratic institutions together, and it becomes a profile area where every member, will be trained. And like I did say, this has to be a routine exercise. It's not a one-off situation. Just that they are elected, they are trained, and then at the end of the day, every member is allowed to do. What it happens even on the ordinary sense. When you're looking for people to give you the votes, your phones are open, you are in constant contact with your constituents, but the moment victory is assured, victory is guaranteed, you begin to switch off your phone and you lose touch with your constituencies. And in my view, this constitutes one of the major reasons why you have high rate of attrition in the National Assembly and even in State House Assembly. If you take the statistics, you will find that. So training is the word. Whether you call it retreat, whether you call it anything, it's all about exchanging ideas. It's all about being reminded. It's a refresher and so on and so forth. And I think we should capitalize on this and build a national pressure around our national legislature and state legislature to appreciate the dynamisms of the institutions that we have at the national level, so that we can fully exploit them to provide, the necessary skills and services, that public officials require Nigeria to do the right thing. As it is today, I do know, Kingsley very, very well that the National Assembly does not take capacity building, a very serious, exercise. And there is no way you can make progress, under any public affairs if you are not up to date, if you are not reminded, if you are not taught about the rudiments, rubrics of new things coming into the field.
Professor Kabiru Mato, you're already becoming professorial, and in this conversation we appreciate you for that, but we'll pause it for a while and let's say get other aspects of the conversation brought in. In fact, this DG, I would suggest to you that other members that could be factored into this training program should also be members of the Federal Executive Council. These are the executors of these policies. These are people who now monitor the implementation of these policies. In fact, they are the drivers. I believe they also need to be properly educated. Talking about documentation of policies or strategic plans and their implementable process. I recall during our Obasanjo administration that he made an appeal to UNESCO to develop a developmental document that has to focus on science, technology, and innovation. And of course, Trust UNESCO, which is of course the UN body, they did a good document. As a matter of fact, UNESCO expanded the horizon of that to accommodate all African countries to say, look, this document can also work for other countries, other governments of the Federation of African continent. Well, when the document was launched, yes, very elaborately launched, fine and good. Till date, nobody can even track that document and what was done with it and the Ministry of Science and Technology during that administration. But then countries like Senegal, Algeria, Egypt, took up that document and are making good use of it. So what I'm telling you in effect is this: you are making an effort, all right? And of course, we've had the talk with the governors yesterday, and of course, you know that you try to engage them instead of teaching them, which is of course the cardinal issue that my colleague raised. Now, in this connection, if after this training, do you have any plan for continuity in terms of maybe periodic training? Maybe you come back some other time to make an assessment of what has gone down, after the first training. Is it a possibility?
Well, thank you very much. About 4 or 5 months ago, we, at NIPS, we are always coming up with looking for solutions to Nigerian problems. We found that, okay, a lot of projects are out there being done, but there is no M&E, that is monitoring and evaluation. You see, it's very easy for human beings to easily forget themselves. So we said there should be a monitoring and evaluation mechanism set up in all ministries per project, so that we can always have ways and means of ensuring that we monitor progress. Where you cannot monitor the progress of any project, you are going to lose that project. So what you are saying is about M&E, which we addressed about 5 months ago, and we got DRPC to sponsor the engagement with the ministries that came. That is to say, we must build into our processes an M&E, and I hope that the new coming government will look into all of these issues of saying, oh, this is a project, let us subject it to M&E. We have the template in NIPS through which people can subject all their projects to M&E. See, governance is a serious business, and we need to begin to take it very seriously. Individuals who are in government must have that real feeling to serve Nigerians. I heard Professor Meto talking about ego, that we should be teaching them, we should not be bothered by what we say. The first thing is to let these people be conscious of the fact that they are there to actually serve, and not by saying that I'm here to serve you. In your consciousness, you must be ready to serve. Now, for those who are really ready to serve, if you say you want to teach them in order to be able to serve, they don't have any problems with it. But more often than not, like he said, once somebody becomes a governor, he changes his phones, everything changes, he loses touch with his constituents, which should not be. Let me give you an anecdote. When we went to Malaysia, we found that for you to become any local government official, to rule or to be in power, you have to go through school of governance, so that you know what you are getting yourself into before you go for elected offices. Right now in Nigeria, we don't care. As long as somebody who has
the recruitment process.
Yeah, as a recruitment process. In fact, one of the things he suggested to the presidency was for us to look at the recruitment process of political leaders. Where anybody thinks, I have the money, I want to contest, and then he wins, and then he gets there, you have voted for him, he does not know what to do. He thinks he knows what he's doing, he may not know what he's doing. And now, we talk of M&E, it is necessary that we monitor what any government, any project is doing. And then for us at NIPS, we are planning, hopefully, that we can continue with this engagement. It's not something that should be one-off. I mean, if we really take this act of governance to be a serious thing, what stops governors for coming for retreats every 3 months? Bring your project, let's put it through an M&E process. But where you don't want an independent judge or independent evaluation of what we are doing, because we are basically big politicians, then we are not going to go anywhere. If I become governor and I want to monitor the progress of my project, and then I bring in my friend's company to come and monitor, what result am I going to get? But a place like NIPS, a place like NILD, could be places where we could independently look at your project and tell you that, look, this is not working for the Nigerian people. What is
your assessment of the first phase of this retreat with the governors-elect and deputy governors-elect?
Well, to be candid, those who came, there were not many. Those who came, even though we had been warned that they won't come. But I told my principal, I said, I'm going to do it, whether they come or not. All we need to do at NIPS is to say, this is an opportunity for us to change the narrative for the Nigerian people. And I'm sure we will change it if all Nigerians will buy into what we are trying to do. Nobody that is in government should think is too big to be taught. But if the word teach will be a problem, we say let us use engagement. Engagement in the sense that we at NIPS we also want to learn from this. Okay, what are your challenges? What are your problems? We can go back and look at them. So they were very attentive, and the good thing is that they asked the right questions. They made the right contributions, and I'm sure that for those who are there, in fact, a few of them were already telling us that they will be needing NIPS to help out in some areas, which of course is what we're trying to get them to do, that we can give you advisories. We did not run elections with you. We just want a better society.
But are you prepared to have a partnership with state governments who may require your services?
Why not? The governor-elect of Enugu State was so impressed. They said, we are going to talk to you. Governor Oti, the elected governor of Abia State, said, well, NIPS will be needing to do a few things. And even in the past, there have been a few state governments that have asked to do certain things for them. But they should always remember that NIPS is there not only to service the federal government, but we are the service of all state governments to ensure that this will get a better society. It's very critical that we do not fail our society this time around. And that is why at NIPS we are pushing out aggressively to say, oh, this is what we think we should be doing. This is how to do it. This is how to refine our processes. Let us work together as one nation and build a strong Nigeria that we all will be proud of. Personally, we don't like a situation where our youths have lost hope in our country. What are we, the elderly ones? How can we allow our children to lose hope in our country? We need to farm up ourselves and be ready to work towards getting that better society for our children. I mean, you see graduates going abroad to do menial tasks just because we cannot provide opportunities. We have been saying in the past few months that we have to be intentional. I've visited the ministries for trade and industry. I've visited Smidan. I've visited a whole lot of other places, telling them that we need to be intentional. Why can't we sit and say we want to find jobs for 5 million graduates? If you are intentional about it, we can find jobs for 5 million graduates.
Yeah, we can. But I still, on this, in terms of your experience in the first phase of the retreat, what did you glean from the contributions of the participants of the retreat? Let's just say the governor-select and the deputy governor-select, apart from the sense of enthusiasm that a few of them have indicated in further engaging NIPS going forward.
Well, personally, from what I saw, they bought into the idea. Those who came, they bought into the ideas. Some were surprised that a few of the other colleagues did not come, and then they really were very excited about the data we presented concerning the issues that we discussed yesterday. And then from the questions they asked, you already see that they are seeing the gaps that they need to fill when they get back, when they assume office. And I'm sure for those who came, they are going to do well if they implement just half of what of the things they had yesterday. I'm very impressed by their contributions, and I know that this, for today, when senators come, we are going to have a fuller house and better engage with them. They will have the sense of responsibility. They will look forward to becoming distinguished members of the Senate, and of course find ways and means from what we are going to engage with them on, of ensuring that those things that require legislation are brought into the fore quickly, and that we can begin to run a better Nigeria.
Yeah. All right, thank you indeed. I'm one of those who think that legislative function is very critical in any democratic governance across the globe, you know, and I consider it as even the nucleus of democratic governance, because of course it's about the people, it's about representing the people. All right, so we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at the possibility of engaging members of the National Assembly, which we are going to begin today, and what you're going to get out of it in terms of legislative work. But I want to understand whether you have lecturers that are well tutored in understanding of governance or whether legislative functions, because of course we've had issues of padding, we have issues of constituency projects that are not completed, we have a lot of issues concerned, so that they understand what it means to legislate. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. We'll be back. All right, we're glad to have you back on Good Morning Nigeria. For today, we've been discussing the NIPS strategic plans, if I may call it that, to engage legislators and, of course, those who have been elected in 2023 to learn more about what governance is all about and what democracy is meant to achieve. And let's return to Professor Kabiru Marto, who is a political scientist and a professor of politics. So let me ask you this. Legislative function, as I said earlier, is very crucial. And if the legislative arm of government is not is dysfunctional, that means any democratic system cannot stand. Now, you understand the intricacies of what has taken place during the 8th Assembly, 9th Assembly, and now we're about to get into the 10th Assembly. These every functions. The presidency, legislative relationship, and all that, padding of budget, constituency projects, some of which are white elephant projects, and other issues concerning the legislative function. Now that NIPS has come in to change the narrative with respect to engaging them and teaching them what they should know, what, in your opinion, should form NIPS strategy in this very lecture, if I may call it that? You are one of those who are well tutored in terms of understanding politics, and especially African politics, which we are practicing. How would you advise NIPS? And what are the areas you think NIPS should focus attention on to see how we can, of course, put these new legislators through?
Thank you very much, Gideon. I think one important area that needs to be dealt with very seriously is the issue of executive legislature relationship. This has been lacking for a very long time. It's been frosty in a lot of instances and totally absent a lot of other instances. There's a need for both the executive and the legislature to understand their constitutional outreaches and limitations. If that is not done, then you continue to have problems. You brought the issue of budget padding. Who is responsible for budget? I recall at the point that President Jonathan was being lured to go to the Supreme Court to seek for interpretation on who has final authority on appropriation. As far as this democratic system is concerned. 11th hour, I think the president was discouraged because it is a very clear responsibility that the Constitution assigns to the legislature. That's the constitution, appropriation. Yes, people talk about policies. Legislatures don't make policies; they make rules. When they make these laws, they don't have the power to implement these laws, except, of course, if they override an eventual presidential or a governorship, veto. But that's not the problem. I think one of the most important things that NIPS.
I seem to be having a glitch over there along the line of communication, but I think our engineers are also present to take care of that. That's Kabiru Marto via Zoom from Kaduna State. We'll return to him as soon as the issue is rectified. So let's return here to the studio and also ask the DG to take part of the question, that is to say, where you're focusing attention with respect to the engagement you have with the legislators beginning from today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Matters concerning legislative functions are better taken care by the NILD, the Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. Not that we do not get involved, but we will let NILD do that. And of course, I've met once with the DG of NILD, and I'm sure we will collaborate the more in the near future. But one thing we want to make clear to the distinguished senators that will be appearing today is for them to understand the fact that executives will make proposals and against a backdrop of what their manifestos are. Senators too have their own manifestos that they campaigned with, and that between the legislature and the executive arm, they should be able to look at the better interest of Nigerians and find common ground so that we do not have frosty relationships. What exactly is the development agenda? Which part of it requires legislative input?
Are you not collaborating with the other agency you say they're responsible for this? Because Nigerians may be asking, what are they going to be taught about if you don't teach them about legislative functions? Are you collaborating with the other agency, or do you have lecturers or perhaps resource persons that may speak on that during this engagement?
No, we are going to draw the attention to issues that requires immediate legislative interventions. Okay, how they get that done is not for us. NILD can better teach them better that we say these issues require legislative attention because the executive cannot do anything about it. Strengthening local governance, for example, is a matter under the Constitution or a matter that they can pass a resolution about. So things like that are the things we are bringing us. This requires legislative attention. This is why. This requires legislative attention. This is why. No, they have the power of appropriation. And of course, because they have the power of appropriation, they already can be shown where developmental efforts should be, and that is where the money should go. And of course, they have the power to institute what we call constituency projects. Of course, we are going to be showing them that if you have constituency projects, basically these are the areas we think you should be looking at as areas of importance for your own constituency projects, even though personally
who are some of your resource persons? Are they all from NIPS, or you have some resource persons?
No, we have. I may not know all their names offhand, but we have.
Not necessarily their names.
Yes, no, not only from NIPS.
Where you have them from?
We have from NIPS, and then we have experts that we've been engaging with over the past. People we trust that have come to engage with our participants. Yeah, professionals. Those are the ones.
It looks like maybe they will have theirs. ICPC and EFCC. I'm sure they will also probably have their own engagements. Maybe because of the formal induction that some of the lawmakers will be having. We keep talking about constituency projects. It's been one of the
contentious issues, right?
Well, scandals, if you may, in the Fourth Republic. Scandals, because
why do you use the word scandal?
I use the word scandal on account of the report by the ICPC to say there is no value for money from the constituency projects. Constituency projects litter the country, uncompleted, abandoned, and then not even according to specifications.
Now,
in a good number of
let me
instances.
intervene. You see, when you talk of constituency projects, what we are missing is that a legislator is supposed to just make the rules. Okay, you have a project of interest. If you get it through, it's not your business to run it, and that is where we are missing it. Oh, I want a road to be tied to my village. It's a constituency project. Okay, it's approved. It's in the budget. You are not a member of the executive. All you need to do is to ensure you have oversight functions, ensuring that the road they do goes with what the design, the approval is about.
According to specification.
According to specification. So I don't see how it should become scandalous for any, how can you scandalize that? The major thing is to ensure that these legislators, you have appropriated the money, the executive arm should execute. So if there will be a problem, it should not come back to the legislature. He should be the one ensuring that he is monitoring and evaluating the project and ensure that it conforms to what specifications there are.
What my colleague is saying is that, ICPC is a government agency.
I agree with you.
It took time. This is investigative. They took time. They went to those projects and saw them and valued them, evaluated them, and came up with the result to say, look, that a good chunk of percentage of them are not what
it should not be the problem of the legislature, it's the problem of the executive. They are supposed to execute projects,
I've asked this question before. With respect to political scientists or those who are practicing politics and who engage in political affairs or governance and what have you, yes, that's good. It's good to get a constituency projects. These are projects for your constituents. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But again, at the state level, we also have members of houses of assembly. We also have members of the councillors at the local government level. What are those people doing? Are they not attracting projects to their constituents? And although, for instance, I have a representative from the House of Reps, from my area. I still have a House of Assembly rep, from my area. So, is it not duplication of project of ideas, or duplication of governance, or duplication of projects? Can't we have a well-structured arrangement where this issue should not come up? A legislator is not a contractor, but today we're seeing them becoming contractors because they are also handling the constitutional project with their personal companies.
Prof. Let me.
You see, we have problems when we don't define the agenda.
No, Prof. Let me also throw this in. It's not. It was an obiter. That's why I said, look, I hope you probably will engage ICPC and EFCC. ICPC has documented budgetary misallocations where, for instance, I don't remember any of them specifically now, say street lighting project for a federal medical center will run into hundreds of millions of naira. Street lighting, medical center.
And when you come there,
that's nothing.
4 or 5 poles.
4 or 5 poles. So these are ICPC ICPC hosts its summit, almost on a yearly basis at the same banquet hall at the presidential villa. And these are issues that they've talked about in terms of dealing with corruption. But the more fundamental issue in all of this, in my opinion, that's the question I want to throw to Professor Kabir Mato. Professor Kabir Mato, in terms of orientation, not just for the lawmakers who have just been elected or who have been in service, but also for their constituents, how do we overcome the conflation of duties and responsibilities and therefore minimize expectations? Because sometimes it appears that constituents expect projects from lawmakers, and if you do not bring those projects, you are seen not to be performing. And the lawmakers themselves also now find it as a way of insinuating themselves to the constituents to say, oh yes, I brought this project for you, I brought this project for you. How do we overcome that? Because it has led to the miasma of issues that we are raising with respect to sometimes, of course, the points that ICPC has talked about. How do we overcome that? How many American or British lawmakers will be saying, I brought this, let's not talk a borehole to you, I brought this X, Y. How do we overcome that so that they can focus on some of the broad areas of their legislative functions and tasks? Prof.
I hope we had you.
Just wait. Prof, it looks like you have muted us, muted your speaker. Did you hear my question?
No, it's not with us.
Well, I hope our engineers will get in touch with him and advise him accordingly. We'll come back to the studios. And Prof, the same question I would ask. This conflation of tasks and duties on the part of the lawmakers themselves, and then the misunderstanding by constituents.
Now, let me say this. You see, we have to define what we want. I was speaking earlier about a developmental agenda. Let me use the issue of boreholes. Assume there is a proposal from the executive arm to have 360 boreholes to be dug all over Nigeria. There is nothing wrong for legislators to fight to have some for their constituents. There is nothing wrong. Now, having fought to have maybe 1 or 2 allocated to your constituency, your duty stops at that initially. Once the contract is awarded, the value at which they award the contract should not be your business, okay? Because you have appropriated the money. Now, Whether these projects get done or not should then be your business. That is why you have oversight. Number one is your constituency. You know this thing has been allocated, money has been provided, it has to be done. When it is not working, what we expect the legislator, the legislator to do is to ensure that they monitor and evaluate progress. They are not supposed to be awarding contracts. It's abdication of responsibility by the executive. If they allow legislators to award contracts, they may suggest contractors, that's okay. But if the contractors don't qualify or meet the criteria, then it is the executive that we say we cannot award this to your contractor, because as it is also part of your constituency work to look for contracts for your indigents. There is nothing wrong with that. It's prebendal. Everybody is fighting for one thing or the other. The major thing is to ensure that the job is done.
Okay, Prof. We are trying to manage time that we have left. So let's return to Professor Kabiru. All right, we've actually lost him. So continue.
Okay, so these projects, once we have been approved, the legislator should just ensure that the projects are carried out according to what the dictates are.
Okay, Prof. Kabiru Matu is back now. Kabiru, as a matter of fact, we had a litany of questions for you. Kinsley had the ones he asked and the one I asked you earlier on. You can just continue from where you stopped, and again look at the issue of constituency projects that our legislators engage in for some time now. Okay, all right. I think that's it for him for today, because of course we're running out of time, so we will not be able to return to Kabiru Matu, but we'll have to appreciate him for being part of our show this morning. Professor Kabiru Matu is, of course, a political scientist. All right. Back here again, Prof. I think we have raised so many points from my colleague and I in terms of what will be your target today and tomorrow when you meet these representatives that come across Nigeria. As I pointed out earlier on, they form the nucleus of democracy because they are representing the people. If we say that it's about for the people and by the people, that's where we are at the moment. I just believe that I was thinking of you involving the other agency you mentioned that could say you collaborate with the agency and of course make use of their own resource persons with respect to re-educating or reorientating some of these members of the National Assembly, especially those who are coming for the very first time. Yeah, thank you very much. We are certainly going to involve other agencies as we find them necessary at other retreats that we are having. For today, we are going to suggest legislative agenda based on issues that we are training up. First, we are looking at local governance, the way it is currently structured, and we have one tier system for every part of the country, regardless of cultural nuances and location issues and the rest of it. Shouldn't they be legislating on giving more powers to the local for local governance and to the local constituents? We'll be trained that at them. We have policies on health that we think requires legislation. Those things will be brought to the fore. We give information, give them enough to think about, so that when they get back, because it's not once you just get there and then you are waiting for the executive. It is not supposed to be like that. They are supposed to have a developmental agenda themselves. We do not know if the 10th Assembly already until they meet, but we are saying before they meet, let us throw things out at them so that when they meet, they can define their agenda. When they define their agenda, we will find need to further engage with them. And of course, once they define the agenda, we will know the relevant agencies that we need to cooperate with. NIPS by itself cannot do it all alone. But we are just saying that, okay, this is how to start. When we need to work with ICPC, why not we'll work with them. When we need to work with any other agency, we'll work with them. But then with what we are going to do today, we are going to just make suggestions, give facts, give information on what we think the agenda could be, so that when they go back, they are not going there and listening to nothing. At least they also must have formed some opinions and already set themselves ready to pursue certain goals when the 10th Assembly meets to define their legislative agenda for the next 4 years.
Thank you very much, Professor Ayo Omotayo, Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. at Kuru, near Jos in Plateau State. Thank you for being our guest this morning. So that does it for our conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next is sports.
All right, and that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We thank you for watching. We hope to see you again tomorrow when we return with a fresh edition of your Good Morning Show. My name is Kirian Umar. I'll see you again tomorrow.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. Look after yourselves. Have a nice day.